Welcome to the Brandwise podcast, where we talk about the big branding moves that business owners are making and the why behind it. I'm your host, Jess Freeman, here to help you be wise and be bold. In today's episode, I'm chatting with my friend Keila Hill Trawick, who is a trailblazer in the accounting industry, redefining what it means to lead a modern firm. As the founder of Little Fish Accounting, she has pioneered innovative approaches to strategic advisory, AI integrations, and sustainable growth for small teams. What I loved about this conversation was how much Keila thought about her clients and how she's attracting the right clients through her brand. It's often that we're talking about attracting clients through content and social media and blogging and email, but she thought so much about her clients through her brand. So I hope today gives you some things to think about in regards to your own brand and client base. And if there are any shifts that you need to make, feel free to reach out to me to chat. But without further ado, let's dive in. Hey, Keila, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Today, we are talking all about your brand. So to get us started, what is your brand all about?
Yeah, so I run an accounting firm called Little Fish Accounting, where we serve really a specific audience, professional service providers with one owner and small teams. And we provide year-round support via tax support all throughout the year, or you can have taxes and bookkeeping and advisory and all of those things. Just kind of a combination to make sure that we're providing a holistic financial component to entrepreneurs who aren't really ready to hire an in-house person to take that on.
Nice. I love it. As someone who does not enjoy taxes or bookkeeping or any of that and has someone who does that, your services are very greatly appreciated.
Thank you. We try.
I know. Yes. Because that's one thing I was like, as soon as I was able to outsource, I was like, please
give it away.
I don't want to do, I mean, taxes I outsourced from the get-go. I was like, I'm not even attempting that. But the bookkeeping and all that, I was like, okay, now it's time. Like
I tell people all the time, outsource the stuff you hate. Like when people are like, when should I hire an accountant? I'm like, how much time do you want to spend on it? How confident do you feel in it? Do you like it? If there is any part of that is like, I actually don't want to do this, figure out how to make enough money that you don't, because I don't want to do the other jobs in my business
right?
that I outsource to people. So I'm like, add this as one of those.
I feel it. So talking about rebrands, what made you decide to rebrand? Like, tell us about the old brand, what that was like, and what finally made you go, okay, like something has got to change.
Yeah. So I think it was a combination of things. When we started, like a lot of accountants, we had kind of a buffet. So I started the business thinking if you needed anything accounting wise, I could probably do it. So I could come up with a price and then I could make it. To me, it feels like the equivalent of like, make me a logo, make me a website. It was all these little pieces. And I was like, I could do your bookkeeping and I could do your sales tax and I could do your tax return. And so the other kind of side of that was when I started the firm, I didn't know anybody else who ran an accounting firm. And my initial, and probably still a lot of our clients were creatives. So really Little Fish got modeled after design firms because those were the businesses that like I could see the inside and know how they worked. And so I say that to say branding has always been really important to us. From the beginning, I was like, it needs to look a certain way. It needs to give off a certain feeling. And I knew that finances scared people. And so to the extent that we could be kind of cozy in the ways that you could come to us and feel safe, that's what I wanted to start with. But I didn't outsource any of that. So I made it. And I made our logo and I made our branding. And I mean, it was better than other accounting firms, but it was not professional. And as I was going through kind of the journey of what I wanted Little Fish to look like, our client became more sophisticated, right? So we went from all small business owners who need any kind of accounting support to, I only want to do it if I can do all of it. So instead of saying, we will do your tax return, it was like, yeah, but then we do that and then you owe, and then I tell you that you should make estimates and then you don't do them and then I have to give you bad news. Can we just take that? We will take care of estimates. We will take care of planning, all that. And so the price point went up and who needed us went up because those people were already thinking about the future and trying to figure out how to save their money. And that didn't align with my DIY brand. And so we
Mm-hmm.
decided, I say maybe 3 years ago, I went to our designer and I said, hey, Little Fish needs to grow up. Like, we have been doing really well. We've been successful. We make money. But like, the people that we are trying to attract at this new price point need to be able to see something that reflects a visual representation of the value that we were bringing. And I couldn't do that by myself. And so that was kind of our first introduction to like, we need something different, even though at the time I didn't know what all that would entail.
I love this because so often I see people who, from an outsider's perspective, I'm like, they need a new brand. Like, they're trying to reach a bigger audience, or I don't want to say older as an age, but like they're further in business, and the brand, the messaging, the services don't match. But so often people are like, well, but it's been working so far. My brand's been working fine. So I don't think it's the brand that's the problem. I think it's my Instagram post. I think it's my whatever. And I'm like, but the brand is not matching the level of quality and service that you are providing.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I just had a conversation with my team where I started Little Fish in 2018. I had a job. I quit my job a year later and did this full time. So Little Fish is coming into like its 7th year, right? And I had this sudden recognition a couple weeks ago where I was like, we are a whole different business. Mm-hmm. Like, this is phase probably 2, 3 of what we do. And to your point, it was easy to be like, why do I have to do that? It's always been working. We've always been doing this. And I was like, your business from like 2018 to 2022 does not exist. Like, you can't even look back at it. You can't compare financials. You can't compare how you got clients. Like, you literally do not run that business anymore. And I think the longer that we're in business, the easier it is to say, like, I've been doing it for this long. And I'm like, I have been doing it for this long, but like, this version of my business is a toddler. Like, it needs all new things. We need to talk to people differently. They have different pain points. It's all of this stuff that looks different, that, to your point, if we just carry from the beginning, it's like, I've been doing this for years and we've been getting clients. And I'm like, you were. And those clients were paying you significantly less than the ones that you want to talk to. Were you getting these clients back then? Because if you weren't, you need to acknowledge that you're going to have to do some different things.
Paying attention to the clients that you want and that you like, what they are willing to pay is such an important part of the brand. Like, so many people think their brand is all about them. And just like, well, this is what I'm all about. This is what I want to do. These are the colors I like. But they don't think about who they're trying to reach and what they are expecting and what they're kind of looking for in a brand. And I know it, like, some people are like, but I don't go looking for accountants or lawyers and like look at their brand. But there is some like subconscious perception that we have when we look at that website, just like when we see, the sketchy ice cream vans driving around.
You don't buy from those.
Yeah. And if you do, you're not expecting the same quality of product or service that you are at, the boutique ice cream shop the next city over. Like, it's a totally different experience. So I think we often leave that brand perception out, and we're just like, this is what I want, and this feels great. And we're not thinking about like, who are we attracting with this brand?
Yeah. And it's an introduction to what it looks like to work with us. And like, this, but one of the conversations that we started having, even with the branding, was like, the difference between listing out tasks that we would do for you and only pulling out the most important parts that would matter to the client, right? So when we started our website, it was like, we will do bookkeeping and we will give you financial reports. And we still do that. But now it's like, we give you weekly bookkeeping update. You get monthly financials with a video. We are still giving you the task, but we had to emphasize like why that matters to you in a different way from an accounting firm that is also listing out. Because if we just compare lists, you're going to be like, you are way more expensive than this other bookkeeper. And I'm like, that's because we're not a bookkeeper. And as long as our brand was these individual tasks that we would take off your plate, it got really difficult to talk to I run the business. I'm the only owner. I am taking on all these hats. Yes, technically bookkeeping helps me, but I still don't know where my money is going. And it was like, oh, we need to be having that conversation. And this brand doesn't have that conversation.
Yes. Oh my gosh, this is so spot on. Like I love how you look at your brand and think of the whole picture and not just the little pieces, because it's every piece, and we do better when we look at the whole picture. So I'm so glad you did that. What aspects, or were there any aspects of the old brand that were hard to leave behind?
You have a personal connection when you're the one that built it. And so it was very difficult for me to be like, are you sure you don't like my logo? Like, I made this. Let's just make all of the things around it. I will say, like, mentally and emotionally, it felt like I was leaving people behind because now people who just started their businesses could no longer be our clients. Like, we were specifically going towards a level of client that already was solution aware, right? They already knew that they needed this, and not in I know I need an accountant way. That's who we were serving before. You know, you need an accountant. You just need to decide if you want us. And now it was, do you need this specific type of accountant? Because, for example, if you just need a tax return prepared, we're actually not your people. I will have to refer you to somebody else. If you're just saying, I just want somebody to do my books, I was like, you could find somebody way cheaper who could just do that piece for you. But we had built an audience of people who were really excited to talk to us. And we're like, but I want you. And so it was difficult as we were going through the branding process and redefining who our client was going to be, redefining our pricing and our scope and like what was going to be included, to have this very tangible, like tangible examples that people would no longer be our clients because they couldn't afford us and we didn't have the same services. And also, I don't know, this weird money psychology of having people willing to give you money and you're just like, no, thank you. I'd rather just not do that work than to get paid. That was a weird, like, adjustment to have to get to of, you know, that you shouldn't be taking all dollars, but we had come from a space of, if you will pay me to do it, I could probably get it done, to, you'd give me thousands of dollars. Okay, no, because that's not in our service offerings anymore. So I will say no. So I think the branding started making me think about the business differently, our clients differently. Am I serving who I want to serve? Is there a way to still make sure that people who can't afford us are getting support? I don't think I expected that when I just thought this will be a prettier version for new people. I didn't expect all the emotional changes I was going to have to go through.
I love that you brought this up, because I have also had that experience when I've increased my pricing and I've rebranded and things like that. And I've been like, so I'm not the person for which I've never been the person for everybody. Yes. But like you, it's like, oh, like I can't help everybody and that now I have people that they recommend, you know, I have friends who recommend me or colleagues. And just the other day, a friend of mine like tagged me in a local moms group because somebody was looking for a website for their business. And I just knew, like, it was nothing against her. I just was like, I can tell that like this is a newer business and that's not. And so, I mean, I still responded, and because you know, maybe she has a bigger budget than I realize. And I was just like, here's my information. And she was like, oh yeah, like that's out of my budget. And I'm like, I know.
I can tell by the way you ask the question, whether or not we're going to be a good fit. Like, I find this, you know, we talk on Threads. It's my new favorite thing. It's not my new favorite thing. I've loved it for a very long time.
Oh my gosh, it's the best.
I love it. But I can tell by the way that people will say, does anybody know a good accountant because I need to replace mine? Or I need a new tax preparer. Do you have any recommendations? Sometimes it's just a quick call out, but history has taught me that a lot of the times what you need is a smaller version than what we offer. And I don't want to, I'm not in the business of convincing you at this stage of your business that you need level 2. What you may need right now is just somebody file my taxes. Like, I just don't want to have to think about it. And I know that there are some nuances that you're going to have to think about down the line, but it's not necessarily a good use of yours or my time to get you there right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so same, I'll see the way that someone will ask and I'll be like, I want to give you like some information. I don't think I'm your person.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard. Have you done anything like smaller offers or like digital products or something for those people that are not ready?
Yeah. So one of the things that we have been really diligent about is building out a resource library of templates and videos and things that we do for people internally. How can I make that something that you could do for yourself? So
Mm,
a good example is, say, a budget template. We will, for our monthly clients, we set up the budget for you. We walk through it with you every month. We make tweaks as needed. But like, step one is pulling your actuals to see what you're trending towards. How can we make a spreadsheet so that you could see an average per month and an annual amount so that you could use that going forward? So we've built that out. We have a resource library. I have a podcast. We send a newsletter. Our team is so small that we can't offer you like tiny versions of the
right.
thing. But we do try really hard to make sure that at the very least, you're doing it with some level of education. You've got something to be able to say, I could start with this template and it would at least give me some information before I have to hire somebody. Or if I'm working with somebody that's not filling that gap, I've got some details so that they're not starting from zero.
Yeah. And that's kind of how I approach my products too. It's like here's a stepping stone
Mm-hmm.
so you can kind of DIY it, but it's not just going without any information.
Yeah.
And it's just, until you're ready. Or if you, like, I know a lot of people, they hire a designer, but then that designer doesn't do SEO. And so I'm like, okay, well, if you can't hire me, here's something that can help in the meantime. So I think it's a nice way. Like, I know some people, they approach digital products as like, this is part of my core like product suite and my whole business. And mine is, and it sounds like yours too, is kind of like here's like a fill the gap for the people who aren't ready.
Yeah.
So yeah. What was the most unexpected like challenge? Did you have any oh crap moments while you were going through this evolution of your brand?
You think you know stuff until people ask the deeper questions about things. So, it might be something as simple as like, who's your ideal client? I'm like, I know exactly who I'm talking to. Yes. And then it would be like, well, how much do they make? What are their top 10 pain points? What are they? And again, coming from an industry where most people know that they need my service. They may not need it in exactly the way, but like, I never had to convince people they needed an accountant.
Right.
Rebranding had me thinking like, but now that, to your point, you're not an accountant for everyone. I never was, but the audience has gotten smaller. What do these people need? And I thought I knew that. And the number of times that it would be, what do we want to include on this service page? What is going to come from this? That was another thing that was an oh crap for me. It affected so many things. I think I thought initially, website, our templates will look different, like the visual. What I did not think about was your newsletter will be different. Your emails will change. The type of content that you put out because of this new brand is going to be different. I mistakenly went into it thinking you will make all the things that I'm already doing prettier, and that will attract people. And I didn't think about, now when I make a post, the post is no longer, for example, here are the upcoming quarterly estimates, right? Or here are the upcoming quarterly estimate deadlines. Those might be the old posts. You need to save at least this much. This deadline is coming up. Make sure you pay it. Now it was the reasons that you need to pay estimates and what they're even doing for you, that they are like prepaying the tax burden for next year. It was this twist that I wasn't thinking about. I just thought that the carousel that told you when they were going to be due was going to be so much nicer than the one that I used to send you. And now I had to rethink, these people don't necessarily need to know the deadline, because the whole point of this is that somebody should be taking it off of their plate. What they need to know is why I'm paying these taxes in the first place. Like, why do I still owe at the end of the year if I'm making estimated payments? And so I didn't realize how much homework I would have in other areas of my business after the rebrand. Like, that wasn't the end.
Yeah. We have very similar experiences because I had the same realization with my rebrand, and just even before the rebrand, as I started to kind of shift who I was talking to before I made the visual shift, I was like, oh, wait, I don't need to say the like basic kind of first steps. I need to go level 2. And my default for so long had been that like, okay, here's the basic and this is what you need.
This is what SEO means. This is why you should do it. And now it should be like, you know that you need SEO. You need to know how you get there.
Yeah. So I think, again, paying attention to our clients, and it's not just about us. It's like really, really knowing the clients and what do they actually need to know. So I'm glad you shared that, because I probably needed to hear that sooner than I did or realize that. So hopefully for people listening, they are like, oh, yes, that's another thing to think through.
It feels very much like remodeling your house. Like, we had some like remodel stuff at our house, and I had the same idea. I was like, oh, we're getting a new kitchen. I'm getting new floors. This is going to be amazing. And there were so many stupid things like, you know, you can't have this sink here anymore because the way that you restructure, like, it was that kind of stuff. That's what the rebrand felt like to me. I thought that I was going to come in with a prettier kitchen. And instead it was like, your whole storage situation is different now because the cabinets that you chose are actually taller than your old cabinets. So where you used to house stuff doesn't have, it was that, these little like nooks and crannies of, oh, I have to worry about that too. I don't care about these handles, but apparently I do need to care about it, because everything that you were thinking about in terms of the vision of this partly hinges on whether these handles are actually the ones that you want. It was that.
Yeah. And again, we have very similar experiences. We didn't remodel, but we kind of redid our living room. It was just like new couch, rearrange it. That was about it. But we were like, okay, let's get some more lamps. Like, basically we wanted it to feel more homey.
Yeah.
And even just choosing the lamps, just like your knobs and handles and whatever.
Yeah.
It was like, no, we need to get like the right kind of lamp to make it feel
And then you
homey.
need to get the right light bulb, because none of this matters if you have cold light versus warm light. And you're like, I just wanted to buy light bulbs.
Yeah. So it's like those little details that when we were doing it, I didn't, I was like, okay, so we need lamps and we need this and that. And I was like, okay. But then once I started digging in and like, okay, let me go find some, it was like, oh, wait, this is much more than just a lamp.
Yes, exactly that. That's exactly right.
Yeah. So how has your rebrand impacted your business?
So I would say, one, it has given us more confidence that we're talking to the right people. One unexpected but good change is that we got way fewer inquiries, which I knew was going to happen. And it still made me nervous.
Yeah.
I was like, people were signing up all the time, and now we get them farther and fewer between. But our close rate increased because the people who got through the website and did the application and all that, we had given them so much information that they knew that they were the right fit. And either people would self-select out and just not apply, or they would apply, but we had much fewer instances of having to tell people you're not quite for us. So I definitely got the sense that like we're talking to the right people about the right things. But the flip side of that was, when you're used to inquiries coming all the time and people constantly trying to contact you, there was this like expected fear of, oh crap, only like 4 people signed up this week. Like, usually there's double or triple that number. Is everything okay? Same thing with the newsletter. There would be, more people dropped off. And I was like, well, yeah, because if you were here for tips and tricks, then when I start giving the more robust idea of these are the things that you should be thinking about as your business is growing, if you are in a place where you're like, I am just trying to make bills, I can you just tell me when this tax deadline is?
Yeah.
You're not going to find as much value from it. So I'll say that we did get better leads. We got better clients. The people that actually entered service were more prepared to be able to do it. But I think the side of that was just getting used to the idea that we weren't automatically going to keep getting a deluge of client when it was tax time because everybody needed taxes. It was like more people than the rest of the year, but still you got to need something specific to want to work with us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember a few years ago working with a business coach, and this is way before the rebrand, but I increased my prices and changed my services just a little bit. Like it wasn't an overhaul, but I remember my inquiries slowed down a little bit. And I remember talking to my coach about like, okay, like things have slowed down. I don't know if this is a bad thing. And she had to keep reminding me, okay, but now you're talking to different people at a different price point. You're used to needing 12 inquiries. And now you don't need that number.
You need like 4.
Yeah. Like, so
Yeah.
it's okay. Like, it's not a bad thing. And yes, easier, closing the sale and converting those people. Like, I hardly ever do discovery calls. I mean, I did one today, and it was the first thing they said was, well, we're already ready to move forward. So it was just kind of a question about timelines and things. So that all plays into the brand, the messaging and everything. And it's so much easier when you're talking to the right people and things are just in alignment and you're not having to convince people.
Yeah. And you're setting really good expectations from the beginning, right? Like if you are a person that is like, I think bookkeeping should cost $300 a month, you can see on the website that it's not going to cost $300 and you can go ahead and find what you need. What I wanted to avoid too was, even for us, we do discovery calls mostly for fit because they're going to be ongoing relationships. And I'm like, before I onboard you and do all this stuff to set you up, I need to be very clear about what we do, what your role in this partnership is, how much this costs, what your time is going to look like. But I say that to say now a lot of our discovery calls are, to your point, like the nitty gritty of things of like, I noticed that you didn't say you did, I don't know, payroll on the website. If I needed help with that, is that something that you would help with? Cause it's like driving me crazy. Or my taxes aren't done for last year. Is that something that you would take care of for us? So things that are like specific to the person that they want to call out, but less tell me about your services, which is also funny when you talk about the rebrand change. My early discovery calls, I felt like were a word vomit of the website. So like you would talk to me and then I'd be like, let me tell you about all the services that we offer. And let me tell you how much they cost and what's included. And after the rebrand, our discovery calls were very much, do you have any questions from what you've already seen? Is there anything specific that you didn't see on the website that you want to make sure we ask? What does your business do? And how do you get paid? What are your biggest pain points? A lot of it was like, how can we make sure that we're serving you best? Versus the beginning was, I don't think you know anything about me. So I doubt that you read my whole website. Here it is for you in a shorter version. I think the rebrand helped me to get more confident and like, you have the baseline and you're already pretty sure of what you want to walk into. You just want those final questions answered, which of course help the close rate too.
Yeah. Yeah. So to kind of follow up on this question, how did you evolve like personally as a business owner during this rebrand?
So I like to say that Little Fish is our own target client. We are a sole owner with a small team. I started really leaning into the fact that what our clients were going through, I was going to go through too. And so in addition to like the accounting support, I run a business just like yours. So when somebody is starting to talk about a rebrand or they're about to get marketing support, I'm like, hey, think about this, because I didn't think about this when I was about to walk into it. And that kind of expanded into tech stack. So now we can give app advisory on what might be the best software based on what you're using. being able to support, like, I don't know, things like cash on hand and when you should get a line of credit. I knew those things and I was giving really prescribed information about that, but I was able to really use us as an example of our own client in a way that I hadn't before. So personally, it started making me think about, like, what is my pain point right now? What is hard for me right now? What should I be thinking about outsourcing? And then being able to relate that to clients to say, if you're not already, it's halfway through the year, and these are the things that are coming up for me. But even asking that question made me have to think back on, like, so what are we going to do internally to make sure that we're good, instead of just advising everybody else on what they.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Okay, last question. What advice? I mean, you've already given a lot of great advice, so you may be like, I've given it all. But what advice do you have for someone who is thinking about rebranding?
It sounds probably really cliche, but I would say think about your why. Like, now that we've gone over all of the things that you're going to walk through, all of the things it's going to bring up for you, it has to be more than I just want it to be prettier. Or you will go through several rebrands. You'll be like, oh, I thought I liked this green, but now I don't like it. We need to start all over again. And so figure out what pivot point you're at or what change you're trying to make so that your branding can reflect your new direction. And sometimes that is like, I've had this for the past 10 years and we just need a refresh. But like, why, if what you're using is working? Like, I always ask, what problem are you trying to fix? And so if you're making the amount of money that you want to make and you're getting the number of clients that you want and you never feel stressed, like, then why are you rebranding?
Yeah.
Because making it prettier is an investment that doesn't actually change anything for you. But if the goal is, I'm starting to charge more, I want to take less clients, I've pivoted the niche that I'm working in, whatever those things are, bring that to your brand or your rebranding conversations so that you have a sense of like what you are hoping to achieve on the other side, either business-wise or financially. Because I just think a lot of people get caught up in, I mean, the internet does a lot of things. So you see something that's prettier than yours, or I don't know why I've been using red all this time when I should have used yellow. I watched this color theory thing and I'm like, but is anything broken? Because if your clients are paying you with a raggedy website, leave the raggedy website. Like, there's other things that you could be investing in.
Yes.
But if there's a reason why you're saying my business is not where I want it to be, and this is what I'm trying to achieve, start there when you're thinking about rebranding so that you don't waste your time and money multiple times over.
Yeah, because there's always going to be something that's prettier. There's going to be some trend you want to hop on. You're going to wake up one day and be like, I don't like those colors. Yeah, like it has to be more than just you want new colors. Like, yeah. So, well, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was so good. I was like, oh, that's a good nugget. I'm like, oh, that's a good nugget. I'm gonna need to write that down. That's gonna be a post. Now I have too many posts just for you. So if someone is listening and they want to connect with you, check out your services, or just follow you, where can we find you online?
Yeah. So I would say that everything that you need to know about what Little Fish does and offers is at littlefishaccounting.com. We have an Instagram and a Threads, which I told you I am very active on. And then if you want to connect with me personally, you can find me over on LinkedIn looking up my name.
Awesome. I will put all the links to that in the show notes. But thank you again for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
If today's branding story inspired you and you're ready to start your own rebrand adventure, head over to justcreatives.com/rebrand to explore how we can work together on your brand. If you enjoyed today's show, be sure to leave a review or share it on Instagram, and tune in next week for another episode.